Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shepherd's Corner, having conversations with Archbishop Jason Gordon. Yes, he is the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Port of Spain. And what a wonderful way for him to speak with his people, speak with the flock. And as we in Trinidad and Tobago get ready to celebrate our independence, Archbishop Jason Gordon wants to have a conversation with us on our house. Good evening, Archbishop Jason Gordon. How are you?
Well, Reverend Deacon, I need to say something. And this is very serious. This is our house. And we better take care of it. Because nobody come in to do the cleanup work and nobody come in to fix it up after. This is our house.
Well, what a way to start, because I am going to ask, what do you see as our greatest challenges in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, you know, nobody has a crystal ball, and you can't read the tea leaves either. But if you read the signs of the times, which is what the Second Vatican Council asked us to do, then you have to see certain trends that are emerging, and you have to see a picture that is forming. And so I believe that we're possibly facing the most challenging decade ahead in our independent history. That's what I believe. That the next 10 years, 2020 to 2030, could well be the most challenging decade we've had as an independent country. Why? Well, the oil and gas prices are already very low. We're looking at a global recession coming our way. There's a pandemic that is wreaking havoc in all the major countries in the world. We have high unemployment, but the rest of the world also has high unemployment. We have insufficient diversification of the economy, so we can't compensate for the oil and gas revenues that we will not get. And we have underdevelopment of both our urban and rural communities, and unsettling racial discourse during the last period after our general elections. And I think all of these contribute to our present crisis, our present situation. To predict a 10-year period that is going to be challenging at the very best, it will be challenging.
You know, you give us quite a mouthful there, because, you know, you talked about the economy in one sense because of low oil and gas prices. The whole world is in recession. This pandemic they call COVID, you like to call it the little microbe. The microbe. We see more and more people are losing their jobs, people are going home, people are asked to take smaller wages. You know what I mean? We've struggled because we did not in good times diversify the economy so that right now we could see a kind of a balance. Right?
And nothing to pick up for the shortfall that we have.
Correct. And when we had the money, we did not invest it properly in our urban and rural communities.
Correct.
So big challenges.
And when you have, if you just take that one, I mean, we have some urban ghettos that have been historic now. And the cycle of poverty in those, that's what fuels the high crime. Now we have some rural ghettos that are historic. I don't know that they're ghettos, but some rural shanty towns. And also Central has some places that are emerging that are real poverty. I mean, real stark poverty. in a country that has spent billions of dollars a year for the last how many ever years. So even if you just take that, when you see we start playing with the unemployment going up and people having less, and the very poor being pushed further and further to a margin, that's where the real challenge comes in terms of holding the whole of the society together. Because it's already dicey, and we haven't even reached a closer precipice in terms of a real economic challenge to the country. So we really, I think, we're in some unprecedented days. The global analysts I listen to believe that we could face a recession as bad as, if not worse than, the Great Recession of 1929. And when the world goes into a global recession, little Trinidad and Tobago, with no cushion, really has an interesting time ahead, where we need all of our citizens banding together. And yet what we're having is fragmentation, which was the end of my statement, that this cycle of racial discourse that is unhealthy in the nation is something that really, really requires that we take conscious steps about. So all in all, if I'm going to look at the signs of the times, I am going to have to say, look, we have some challenges that might grow us up as a nation.
Well, I see you're looking at it as looking at something positive. So I'm glad that you're seeing that, okay, we have some challenges as a growing nation. But
No, I'm saying we have some challenges that can grow us up as a nation.
Well, I want to say, I want to agree with you, and I'm hoping that it does grow us up as a nation. Yeah. But this, I hate to use this because it sounds cliche. This seems like the perfect storm. What we are experiencing right now seems to be the perfect storm.
In some ways, that's a word I would use, a phrase I would use. You see, we are facing fundamental challenges. Are we young, eh? We think ourselves as mature. We're not mature. We are only 58 years, or coming up to 58 years as a nation. That's incredibly young. You have to remember it took England 1,200 years before it could write the Magna Carta. 1,200 years. And America, how long it took to settle the difference between the North and the South, the East and the West. How long it took to settle that, and erupted into civil war years after they became an independent nation, and then had to settle that. And even in becoming an independent nation, those who wanted to keep British rule and those who did not, and the fierce fighting that lasted a while after. So, as a young nation, we're facing some fundamental challenges. Some of these we really have absolutely no control over whatsoever. We can't control the global economy. We can't control the pandemic. We can't control the global unemployment. The main things we have no control over. But, there are other things that we are completely responsible for, and we need to exercise maturity and leadership in if we're going to emerge the nation that we are supposed to become.
Well, that brings me into a question front and center. Do we have existing right now the quality of leadership that is needed to take us from this place and move us into or carry us through this storm?
What I would say is that Trinidadians have been at the fore of many fields of endeavor around the world. So Trinidad does not lack talent. We have had people contributing to many major fields in all kinds of ways. I mean, there's a wonderful young woman fresh out of her BA. And I mean, she's now going to be occupying the front cover of Time magazine with an embroidery art that she does that is saying something to the whole of American civilization by a little Trinidad and Tobago. We don't lack the talent. What we lack is the purposefulness and the sense of mission in our society that will galvanize the brightest and the best towards what we are facing. So the global challenge requires us to adjust and to adapt and to do much, much more with much less, while ensuring that the poorest and the most vulnerable are protected as best we can. And that's a requirement that we're going to have to deal with. We don't have a choice. Our income is going to drop significantly over the next couple of years from what I can see. Now, the last time this happened to Trinidad and Tobago, something happened internationally, oil price went up. They had a war, oil price went back up, and we went into boom. For 40 years, we had a boom since then. So, it's hard to tell, but from where I sit, all things being equal, we have to be able to manage our house a lot better than how we have before. And we have to buckle down and say, this is not a time where people can make extravagant and obscene amount of money, while other people are going to be on the fringe suffering. There's not a time like that. This is a time where we really have to buckle down and hold together and make this thing happen and make sure that everybody has a food on the plate and everybody has a way forward in their life. Every child has great education, and everyone who is striving will find a way to succeed. That's what we have to figure out. How are we going to do that? Hold the whole together while we see a shrinking pie in front of us. Because the normal instinct with a shrinking pie is everybody try to grab their share quick. And so everybody start to grab. And in that starting to grab, what will then start happening is we will do the whole thing when you and I were children. Remember condensed milk will run short? And when you check, they had more condensed milk under people's bed than in the shops of the nation, when you checked it. Because everybody went by Mary, and Mary is always the name of the shiny shopkeeper. I say, Mary, and Mary would give you your bag of stuff, and you have 2 or 3 tin of condensed milk inside your bag, nicely wrapped up, and she added to your bill, not saying a word, and you get your money. You're not asking a question because you know the condensed milk in there. And you now it's starting to go everywhere to hoard. And that's what happens when people see scarcity. I'm saying we have to go in the opposite direction. We actually have to go to distribution and to make sure that the poorest amongst us are going to have what they need in this time of crisis.
That is a big ask, but it is a necessary ask. It's necessary, and I'm glad that you're bringing this up in this conversation. I believe it is necessary to keep reminding people,
Yep.
to share, don't hoard, to share.
No. We have enough. If we all band together, we will have enough.
Yeah.
If we don't band together, we're going to be in trouble.
And we're going to be in more trouble than we want.
Because it's going to rip us apart.
That's it.
It'll become nasty and it will rip us apart. I'm saying if we understand that we will have enough, because we're still more fortunate than most of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We still have a oil stabilization fund. We still have all kinds of things. So we still have more than the rest of the Caribbean. Because until tourism picks back up, most of the Caribbean is not going to be able to find a way. So we still will do okay if we hold the whole together. And then we have a wave of COVID-19 that we see in some cases jumping. I remember the whole of the first lockdown, we ended 109 cases. We had a day where we had 130 something new cases in a day. So that's to tell you the difference between then and now. So that is a whole other realm that we're dealing with. And this could lead to much more social disruption. And I don't know if we're really prepared to step once more again to feed those who are not going to have what they need. I don't know if we're prepared for that again. But I think we have to find a way to make sure nobody's going hungry. Because the greatest crisis is if you have families that are not receiving food and are becoming hungry. Yeah. That's a crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to, you're calling for deep charity here. You're calling for deep charity. And I think we have it within our psyche, within our whole being as Trinidadians. We are normally very generous people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is where the call from us for the greatest generosity we could imagine. I think we're capable. And that's why I'm saying I think this will grow us up as a nation. I really believe that the challenge that we could face, we might look back at the end of it and say, wow, that was tough. But we might also say, you know something, we are a much better nation right now than we were before we went into it. Because each time we go into a bout of challenge, it grows us up in a very specific and particular kind of way.
In your article, and I'm reminding everybody, get your copy of the Catholic News.
Yes.
You know, it does a lot of things. It's very good reading. It lasts for a week.
Good formation.
Good formation.
We're putting it out now on a Monday night, so it's in the shops by Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday. It's in your shops. So pick it up early so you could prepare for the Sunday Mass. You could also prepare for Shepherd's Corner. Because if you pick it up like on a Wednesday, means you could read the back page and then be ready for our conversation, for our conversating.
Good. And you can send me your WhatsApp comments. Now, I know I continue to get WhatsApp comments, and I want to encourage you all to keep on sending your comments. You know, somebody called about His Grace, about every citizen must take exaggerated responsibility. You know, and they were saying, what do you mean about exaggerated responsibility? Ask His Grace to explain exaggerated responsibility.
You know, this wave of COVID cases could really lead to much more social disruption than we had in the first time. And we have to be prepared to step up once more and to feed the hungry and to support our children who will be going out to school for several more months. You know, they're going to be out of school this time. And from March until December, our children will be doing school without a physical building. Many kids have no device to do it with. Many kids have no supervision at home to stay home. And many mothers now have a Solomon's choice to make. Do I go out to work and be able to have money to buy some food? Or do I stay home to supervise the kids? In which case we'll have nothing to eat. And that's a major, major challenge. You know, this time I think is going to call for some fairly deep giving from us, the people. And I think that we're going to have to reach deep this time because we can't leave people behind and hope that the society will be okay. We have to find a way to make sure we take everybody with us during this next part of the journey.
I just want to just endorse what you just said and to share with everybody what's going to take. I mean, we have to plan for it. We can't say, well, maybe we will get another spike in oil prices. No, we have to plan that.
Plan for the worst.
Plan for the worst.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. So all I am doing, I'm not reading tea leaves and I don't have a crystal ball. All I'm looking at is trends. When I look at the trends, I'm saying that, we have to sober up. We have to sober up. That's what we have to do. This is about sobriety at this stage. And sobriety requires of us to do something that is so different. And that's something that is so different. That's where we have to go. We just don't have a choice.
Well, I want to go out on an appeal because you said it at Sunday, and we've been putting it out in the Catholic News. And I think that this is essential for where we are going so that we don't leave anybody behind. The Catholic Church is asking us to create a database of everybody in our parish.
Yes.
And this, for us not to leave anybody behind.
We have to register people. Every family register, so that we can be in touch with you, so that we can be able to follow up with you, and to ensure that everything goes good. And to register is simple. Just go to catholictt.org and you'll see registry. Go into that, register your family. That will allow your parish to keep up with you, especially in a time like this.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it gives us information on do you have breadwinners in the family? Who is working? Who is not working? Have you both lost your jobs? How many people are in the family? All of these things are really important so that we know our shepherd knows his flock outside there, and we can make sure that we take care of everybody, leaving no one behind.
Correct.
So you said, and I'm going to say it again, that every citizen will need to take an exaggerated responsibility for this, our Twin Island Republic, and commit to building this place into a home for us all.
Well, yes, because without taking that exaggerated responsibility, we're not going to do anything. Lloyd Best said, we are a nation of unresponsibility. This is not irresponsibility, Irresponsible connotes that you know what you're supposed to do, you're just wayward and bad and you ain't doing it. Unresponsible connotes that you really know what you're supposed to do, which means that you're working with a defective compass. So you're not heading in the right direction in the first place. And I just came to this notion of unresponsibility because he looked and has seen in terms of every walk of life, the way that we have not done well with our taking responsibility on all kinds of ways, in all kinds of levels. And so I'm talking about exaggerated responsibility, because what exaggerated responsibility is sometimes for us will look like irresponsibility for others. So that we have to exaggerate this responsibility so that we understand we need to stretch the responsibility. Now that's what maturity is based on. Maturity is based on taking appropriate responsibility. And right now, we are acting like teenagers and young adolescents as a nation, because we're not taking appropriate responsibility for the poorest of our poor, for the children being left behind, for the ghettos where people are condemned to poverty generation after generation, for the new shanty towns in Central, for the rural, urban poor and poverty that we've had for generations. We're not taking responsibility. We have to take responsibility in a much better way for the people on the fringe if we're going to hold this whole together. If we want to have a peaceful nation, we have to work for development. That's the message of the popes. If you want peace, work for development. And that's what I'm saying as a nation we have to go towards right now. We have to work for development.
We need to find a way, you said, for every citizen to be productive and contribute, to work together, to build a nation of which we can be proud, one where all of us has a place.
I would like every citizen, every adult citizen, to think and to spend some time on Independence Day and dream, just dream of the kind of country you would want your children and grandchildren to live in? What would you want them to live in? What would you like Trinidad and Tobago to be like, to hand it on to them? I would like us to dream. Because if we dream the kind of nation we would like to live in, I'm sure everybody would want peace and harmony. I'm sure people are going to want no violence. I'm sure people are going to want to feel that I could go out in the evening and feel safe. People are going to want to say, well, you know, people who have talent and are willing to work will get appropriate jobs and have a decent living. There are many things that we're going to want to dream about. Then we have to start working towards that, making that dream reality for our children and grandchildren. And we can't make that reality unless we're willing to take exaggerated responsibility at this moment and really step up to the plate and grow up so that we become the nation that our children and grandchildren will be happy to stay and live in. Because unlike 30, 40 years ago, America, Canada, nobody is going to be taking new immigrants in a short while because everybody's going to be in some trouble. And that means that we're going to be here. This 5,000 square feet, 2 rocks we have, we're going to be here. And that means that we better start taking care of here in an incredibly wonderful way, where we start thinking about each other and becoming each other's brother and sister.
Now, I'm hearing you, but then in your article, you jump and you talk about V.S. Naipaul, the oddities of our nation. I mean, what was that? How did that level of thinking just jump into this? I mean, that's my question here now.
Was that V.S.?
V.S.
Naipaul is, I think, you know, as Trinidadians, we love Naipaul and we hate Naipaul. But nobody put their finger on the pulse of Trinidad like Naipaul did, eh? And in fact, I was tossing between 2 books to use as a reference at this time. And I went with Bisworth as opposed to the Suffrage of Elvira, which is a satire on electioneering in the Caribbean, well, in Trinidad and Tobago. But I went with House for Mr. Bisworth. Why? Because in A House for Mr. Bisworth, Naipaul is reflecting on his life struggles and seeing all the oddities that plague the house that he had purchased. It was ill-fitted, it was ill-conceived, it lacked design, and it was built badly. They had a staircase going to nothing, and they had a door upstairs that had nowhere to go when you open the door. It was on a corner that was more triangular than rectangular. Everything in the house had an oddity about it. But yet, at the end of his life, Naipaul reflected and said how terrible it would have been at this time to be without it, to have died among the Tulsis amidst the squalor of that large, disintegrating and indifferent family, to have left Shama and the children amongst them in one room, or worse, to have lived without even attempting to lay claim of one's portion of the earth, to have lived and died as one has been born, unnecessary and unaccommodated. This is Naipaul at his excellent best. Huh? So House of Mr. Bisworth is a philosophical treatise. It is really looking at futility and possibility and struggle. And what Naipaul does through the whole novel is he defies karma and fate to demonstrate that we human beings have the capacity to transcend our beginnings. And nothing about fate really conscripts us into futility for all of our living. That we have a capacity to become better than we started and to go beyond even what people would ascribe to our fate and to our karma within our world. So he's saying that you know, one of the characters was assigned Peter. He painted a sign, paddle your own canoe. You know, in other words, get off your tail and get up and do. And what Naipaul is wrestling here in House for Mr. Bisworth is that the house is ill-fitted, it is ill-conceived, it is badly designed, it's badly built. It has a legion of problems. But at the end of the day, it's his house. At the end of the day, it is his house. It only obeys his rules. And he is the only judge of the house, because everybody looking on from outside could look on and say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, it is his house. And that's what is most important. And I think there's a wonderful parallel here, because like this, what we see all too clearly the oddities of this nation. And every Trinidadian is an expert in what's wrong in this place. Eh? We have more experts on SWOT analysis in Trinidad and Tobago per square inch than people have per square meter in other countries in the world. But you see, we see the obscenity of racial sayings rising every 5 years. We only to cool down again once the electioneering is over. We see the high levels of crime and the domestic violence. We see the underdevelopment of our brothers and sisters in urban communities. And we have created and neglected to invest in these communities, and therefore we then cry foul when the murder rate is going up. Can't do both. So we know and we see all the underdevelopment of our brothers and sisters in really substandard dwellings growing in central and rural Trinidad. We see it, you know. We see the ongoing tensions between Trinidad and Tobago in that clash that we have. And we also see the high corruption that's a cancer eating away at the very soul of our people. We see all these things. But you know what? This,
our house.
You see this?
This our house.
This is our house, you know.
Yeah.
Look, friend, let me tell you something. This don't have to obey nobody else's rules, you know. And it don't have to shelter nobody else, you know. This is our house. It ain't my house or your house, you know. This is our house. Together, this is a plurality. So that we together have to recognize that whatever, for better or for worse, this is our house. And only we can take responsibility for this. And the only people who can make this house better is you and me.
Yeah.
And that's the message I want. And that's why I went to V.S. Naipaul. This incredible philosophical treatise called House for Mr. Biswell, which is really an existentialist play that he's doing with us and teasing our mind about whether futility or possibility is really the option for the human being. But this, you see this 5,000 something.
This our house.
Square kilometers we in here. This 1,700 and something
Square
square miles we live in it. You see this? This, people can say what they want to say from outside, you know. You see this? I lay claim to this. And I want the children and the grandchildren to be proud of this. With all of its oddities, with all of its challenges, with all that we could say that is wrong, this is our house. This is our house. We have to be happy to bring people to see our house and to understand that as much as we could talk about the oddities, we could talk about the beauty of this place.
Amen.
No other nation in the world could take a garbage pan and turn it into music, you know, friend. Nobody ever do that before, ever, you know. That never happened, you know. Nobody could put on a fiesta the way that we do it. They can't do that and turn the social things of the day into commentary, into music, and have your musician as your foremost political commentator. Having politicians cringing. You know, this is our house, and there's so much beauty in it. And I see the oddities, and I'm sure every citizen sees the oddities. But let's also look at the beauty. And let's recognize that if this is our house, we have to take exaggerated responsibility for the common good to build Trinidad and Tobago into the kind of nation that it needs to be. So I'm saying that like Biswa, we too must conclude how terrible it would have been to live and die in a colony and to never have the opportunity to chart our own destiny and to become our own people. How terrible that would have been. And I think that's it. That is the prospect I want to put on the table on this independence. How terrible it would have been to still be somebody's people and have somebody making the decisions for us. With all of the challenges we face, what we have is far, far better than when we were a crown colony. Far better. And I think what we need to do now is grow up and take exaggerated responsibility for the common good and build this nation so that our children and grandchildren will be happy to stay here and live.
Build this nation together. That's part of our calypso. That's the last line of our calypso. I build this nation together. You know what I mean? Nice calypso.
Amen.
We alone can change the future for ourselves.
Nobody else. You know, when a teenage boy make a record room, eventually mothers get vexed and go in and clear up everything and start to wash clothes and clean and put away and make this nice and do that nice and change this and change that and give him back a brand spanking room to live in again. Eh? No mommy coming in to clean up this house, you know. We have no mommy coming to clean up. We have to take responsibility and clean up. We have to do it. And you know, the thing is, I know we as Trinidad and Tobago are capable of putting this house right. I know that. We are capable. And I think we have to work together to do it.
Now, you talk about working together. And I want to take us back to the election 2020. You know, one of the most racially charged that you said you could remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you noted and you documented. I heard young Trinbagonians calling people of other races names that cannot be repeated. Then you heard the others calling for rape and murder of the first group.
Yes, it was crazy, you know.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. And I have not heard that level. I remember around 2000, we had 3 elections in about 3.5 years. And it got close to that. But we didn't have social media. So it didn't get that crazy back in 2000. But you have to remember this race thing is a 5-year cycle. And that's what we have to watch. We have to understand that the time for that is coming to an end. We just have to understand that that's politics of the past. That's not politics of the future. That have a shelf life, you know. And that shelf life is running out.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we have to understand. Therefore, if we're going to plan for the children and the grandchildren, we can't continue planning by racial politics that continues to divide and create the kind of havoc that we had. You know, what I saw was extreme irresponsibility. It was extreme irresponsibility. And I would say on both sides of the spectrum, not on one, you know, on both sides of the spectrum, extreme. And if we allow that level of irresponsibility, it will burn this place down. It really will. And we can't allow that to happen. So we really have to put in place a much more responsible adult who will call this thing out and say, hey, you see, Olia, cool it. This is our house. You and me together, this is our house, you know. You don't have to look like me and I don't have to look like you. But guess what? We both need to live in this house together. We are no more house. And if you burn it down a room, all you win and burn.
Correct.
Everybody gonna get affected. So let's build peace in the house and let's make sure that we have a way of living together in this house that will be a way of peace and a way of harmony. Because we are united together in this twin island republic for better or for worse. And I think it could be for better. And I believe we're capable of better this time. I really believe that. And I believe also that the challenges that are coming will help us to become a better nation.
I see in your article, you also noted young people doing amazing things.
Yes, there's a young Trinidadian who had this Project Y. And he sent out a video calling for a national campaign, my country, your country. You know, the modern thing, hashtag, my country, your country. And basically, he was saying something that I think is really a great sentiment. And that's why I'm saying, let's look for the children and the grandchildren and let's build this house for them. So here's what he said. He said racism in Trinidad and Tobago, but that don't make no sense. He said Trinidad is a melting pot of cultures where segregation does not belong. All are we eating out of each other food. We wearing each other clothes. We listening to each other music. We taking part in each other holidays. We living in each other neighborhoods. And we are socializing among each other since we were real young. So what are we talking about? It had no place here. And that's the perspective I would like to capture when I say we're building this house for the future. You see, the past was based on racial politics. And the past based on racial politics was necessary because they have no other way to win an election. But I'm saying the future cannot be based on racial politics because the racial thing is not going to keep us going for very long. It's going to start to break down very, very quickly. And that's what we have to see. So truth, fairness, benefit to all, and goodwill. We have to see this. So in the 1960s, there were the 1860s, hear when?
Wow.
1860, there were 23 friendly societies formed by ex-slaves from Africa. 23, eh? And these fought bitterly among each other. They spoke different languages, they were from different tribes, they had different backgrounds, they had different, all kinds of things. And that's where stick fight and that's where that come from, okay? This is back in the 1860s. Now, they were fighting for identity. And each one of the friendly societies found their identity based on some tribal connection they had back to Africa. In 100 years after that, in 1960, we talk about Afro-Trinidadians as if it's a homogeneous term. And Afro-Trinidadians gathered together to protest white discrimination in Trinidad and Tobago 100 years later. And Black Power sought to embrace the Indo-Trinidadian population, not only the Afro-Trinidadian population. And so you have to hear what 100 years could do, you know. You have to hear what 100 years could do. And what I'm saying is the next 100 years, they will not be fighting racial politics in Trinidad. And so let's give it up. And let's start looking to the future now. Because the future is going to look very different from the past. You see, in another 100 years, we'll have a very different configuration. You know, in 1946, the census identified 14% of the society as racially mixed. Okay? 14%. In 2011, it was 24%.
That's quarter. That's about quarter.
And I am predicting when the 2020 census comes, it will be closer to 30%.
Yeah.
It will be fairly close to 30%. And I'm predicting the shift to the mix is going to be an exponential shift. You know, we learned about exponential with COVID.
Yeah.
But the shift is going to be exponential because young people are not marrying by race anymore.
Yeah.
And they're not listening to their parents who want them to marry by race anymore. Young people are intermarrying in ways that are really incredible and creating a hybridity that is incredible in our society. You see, you know, there's something called underlying social structures. And hybridity is an underlying social structure. It was here long before Columbus came on these shores. We had hybridity here long before, you know. An enduring social structure that has been enduring for hundreds of years will have its way. And so I'm saying that 100 years from now, politics will not be racial. So let's understand that the tensions that we face that could destroy the house is really the tensions for the past. If we're going to build this house now for the future, for the children and for the grandchildren, we have to get past that tension and start to ask the kinds of questions that make sense for a democratic republic. What kind of house do we want? And how do we find a place for everybody in this house? And how do we ensure everybody in this house eating our food and having opportunities by their willingness to strive and by their willingness to live and by their willingness to contribute? How do we ensure that? Those are the kinds of questions we now start to have our democracy revolving around. And when we do that, this country is going to be real, real sweet.
This is our house. His Grace is reminding us, this is his independence conversation. His independence conversation with all of us. You know, we all, from captain to cook, need to embrace exaggerated responsibility for the common good in our actions, our social media posts. Yes, young people and old people alike. Our radio talk shows. Oh gosh.
I hear some things in the talk shows is make me hold my head and bawl.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's, you know, it's the media posts and the talk shows that are exciting the worst in us, you know. And I wanna tell you, it is a mathematical problem, you know.
A mathematical problem.
Yeah. This problem.
Hold on. I was always good in math. Let me show you this a mathematical problem.
Well, you see, in school I learned they have two things.
Yeah.
LCM and HCF.
HCF, right.
And rather than going for HCF, we're going for LCM. It's a mathematical problem.
You know it's common multiple.
We, rather than going for the highest common denominator or common factor, we're going for the lowest common multiple. We're going for LCM. And that's the problem. I tell you, it's a maths problem. It's a maths problem. If we would go for HCF, for the highest common factor, you know, when Michelle Obama did that speech, it was so beautiful. She said, when they go low, we go high. If we are willing to go for the highest common factor in public life and in private life, I think this nation would be the most amazing place in a very short time. It will not take us long for people to see the genius of Trinidad and Tobago that I believe we are capable of.
Well, that young lady, Nikki Jones, 23 years old, is showing the potential of our nation, our steel band, our culture, our calypsos, our carnival, you know, in its real sense, shows the potential of our nation. So from captain to cook, we have to...
From captain to cook, we need to embrace exaggerated responsibility for the common good. In our actions, in our social media, in everything, in our families. In our families, we have to witness to the next generation that everybody is a people. It's simple, you know. Everybody is a people. That's really simple. That don't take brains. Everybody is a people. Everybody is part and parcel of this house, you know. It's this house, you know, friend. This house. Because this is our house. This is our house. We are no other house, you know. We don't have no house down the islands we could go to, you know. To say mash up this one, well, you go to the one down there. No. It's one house we have. Trinidad and Tobago. And here, you know, I remember the late Dr. Eric Williams, on the eve of independence, said, you know, there is no mother Africa. And there's no mother India. There's no mother China, if even people could decide which China could be mother. There's no mother Syria, and there's no mother anything else. There's only one mother, and that is Mother Trinidad and Mother Tobago. And a mother cannot discriminate against her children.
Amen.
And that's really the sentiment I want us to have for this 58th independence of Trinidad and Tobago. This is our house. Let's build it up now. Let's clean it up now. Let's shine it up now. Let's brighten it up now. Let's make sure that all the different people living in this house have what they need now. Let's make sure nobody get left behind. Let's recognize that we all connected in a way that whether we like it or not, we connected, friend. Because there's only one house we have, and that is this. So let me do this thing real straight. Trinidad and Tobago, that's us. Trinbago, that's us. That's us.
You spoke about Rotary and
yeah.
the great four-way test for discerning or evaluating an action.
And this is what I want to leave with people, because I came across it and I thought it was very powerful. Ask yourself before you do the next social media post, before you say the next word to somebody in anger, ask, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all? And if it passes this test, then go ahead. Do what you ought to do. Because if it passes this test, then we're good to go.
I want you to say, hold on. I want you to say that by yourself. Say that again.
Is it true? Or is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all? That's the four-way test. Truth, fair, goodwill, and friendships, and beneficial to all. And if it does those things, then it's good to go. And if every citizen in the country could use that four-way before jumping forward, then we might have a better society to live in. And the house might be a wonderful place to be.
This is our house. Give us the key message as we end.
Well, Trinidad and Tobago belongs to us and to us alone. And only we can face up to and address the internal challenges that we face by exercising a resolute responsibility for the common good. We can build a better nation. And I really believe we can do this. I really believe that. Action step.
Mm-hmm.
Use the four-way test to review your social media posts and your conversation and actions for the last week. So take that four-way test, look at your social media posts for the last week, and ask yourself those 4 questions. And I think some of us might squirm a little bit. It might be true, but is it beneficial to all? Is it building better friendships? Ask yourself the questions and do the evaluation like a nice examen. And then use it before you act socially and virtually. And I think that would help us to temper our social interaction over the next little while.
Scripture reading.
From Philippians 4:4-8, where whatever is true, whatever is good, whatever is noble, that's what we do. And it's a beautiful text. So take a read of it.
Well, I want you to bless the nation. Give us a prayer as we are about to celebrate our independence.
Father, you call us to be a nation among other nations. And you call us to live in this nation and to be in this nation a people of diversity and a people of joy and love. You ask of us to live and to be brothers and sisters, side by side, different creeds, different races. And you ask us, Lord, to build this house, Trinidad and Tobago, a symbol of your unity in your diversity, a symbol of you as Trinity, unified yet different, different yet with one mission, one heart, one mind. Teach us, Lord, to be a Trinitarian people, that we can build this house and reflect your glory. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Archbishop Jay, thank you so much. Thank you so much again for taking time out to have a conversation with us on the eve of independence, reminding all of us that this is our house. I want to encourage everybody, go get your Catholic news. We're
Absolutely.
We're on Thursday night, 8 o'clock live. Then we have rebroadcasts on Sunday. We are also on radio stations. Actually, people call me to say, hey, listen to the Archbishop on the radio station. So God bless you. God bless our nation. Happy independence to everybody.
Happy independence. And may God bless our nation. Amen.